Welcome back. The Justice Department released a blistering report on Baltimore police practices today, prompted by the death of Freddie Gray at the hands of police last year. The report found that the Baltimore PD systematically engaged in unconstitutional stops, searches, and arrests of African Americans, in addition to excessive force. Here's Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake responding earlier today.
The findings are challenging to hear. But let me be clear. I never sugarcoat our problems, nor will I run away from our most pressing challenges.
All right, very good. The party panel is back. Eboni Williams, Kmele Foster, and Ben Kissel. Kmele, I want to start with you here. What is most disturbing in here about the report for you?
Well, I think the report actually does have an important point. There's an observation that's made about the lack of training and how that may, in fact, contribute to abuses of power by the police, that there's a lack of accountability. That is something that we can sort of sink our teeth in. The real problem is the coverage and the fact that the report itself decides to frame all of this stuff with respect to race.
And a racial.
There's not much that I see here that suggests that there is actually a pattern of racial bias.
No.
What we're actually doing is we are fetishizing the racial aspect of this story.
Does it do a disservice to...
Well, yeah, we ignore the actual things that we could be addressing in terms of reforming things, in terms of addressing fundamental problems in Baltimore. Yeah. Look, the Baltimore Police Department has very real issues. Yeah. Very, very real issues. Racism isn't one of them. It's over 50% black, if I'm not mistaken, mostly minority. But the important thing here is that in addition to just being not really good at things by beating people up who they don't need to, they're also not really solving murders.
Yeah.
It's like have a 30-odd% clearance rate. I mean, it's just indefensible, especially in a place that has epidemic homicide levels.
Yeah. So you are shaking your head.
I'm in disbelief. I couldn't more vehemently disagree with you, Kmele. There actually is data in the report from the Justice Department that talks very specifically about how this is a racially focused issue. It talks about how the proportionality of stops in black communities, and yes, there's definitely more crime in black areas, so that part makes sense. But it talks about if you're stopping, 80–90% of black stops, resulting in almost no arrest. Yeah. So that kind of gap does look problematic. Right. Also, you're right, it's a very diverse police department, 50% some odd being people of color. But we can't ignore the fact that people of color can also implement racially biased police practices. And that's a truth that America doesn't really seem comfortable with. It does not have to just come from white officers, this type of discriminatory thinking.
But the concern here that I have is that we're making it about the race question, and we're not focusing narrowly on the fact that there is an actual material civil liberties violation here. And I don't even know that we would be talking about this issue if not for the racial issue. And quite frankly, even the overrepresentation of this particular racial group, let's actually look at the crime data. The overrepresentation is profound in these all of the criminal justice statistics. And generally speaking, why is it that black people are overrepresented in crime stats? It's complicated.
Yeah.
But it's certainly both as victims and perpetrators.
It's poverty, it's the community, and those different things. And I agree with you. But we don't have to extract the racial component to also talk about the training and other issues.
I just think it distorts the picture, it distorts the conversation, it hijacks everything.
Fourth Amendment civil rights are a real thing, and I think they have to be addressed.
Well, I just don't see the civil rights in the title of the article.
Go ahead, Ben.
I submit, because that's kind of a fun thing to say.
It's so fun.
We've talked about this quite a bit. It's really, the police is the extension of the tax. In Ferguson, 24% of the city revenue was got funded by police pulling over people and jacking up as many reasons to ticket them as possible. So I think that really needs to be taken into account here as well. If I'm super hungry, I know I'm going to Cece's buffet as opposed to a fancy steakhouse because I can get more for my buck. And if you are an extension of the tax, which is what the police are in this country, you go to the poor communities and you go fishing for money.
Yeah, that's what happened in the city of Bell in a very different sphere in California. But also, I mean, I look at this and I think, is this really the purview of the Department of Justice? I mean, they are stepping beyond their bounds, going to these local police forces and implementing these federal standards. I don't...
Actually, no, Kennedy, because under the Fourth Amendment Civil Rights Act, if people are claiming their Fourth Amendment rights are seized, that is actually exactly when the DOJ should step in. Right now, they're not being sued. This is actually an opportunity that this community has and that Baltimore has to negotiate ways to be retrained, ways to talk about why they're projecting certain areas more so than others. And if all goes well, this goes away. If they don't, that's when the lawsuit
if I can make one more point, I mean, when I actually look at violent crime statistics here, the fact that most of the people who were killed have criminal records, and that most of them, something like 80% of the folks who have criminal records, are involved in drugs, the fact that we're not talking about those sorts of reforms, in addition to all these other things,
that is a different topic for another day that we could actually get into. Because no, you are 100% correct about that. Thank you very much.